Always recognize your target speaker, looking at him in the eye. Contest master, fellow Toastmasters, and my speaker for the day, Toastmaster Ravi. That adds a lot of value, that shows confidence, that shows that you're not just preoccupied with your good points and bad points and CRC and sandwich. You also are in the present. You are concentrating on living in the present. That's what evaluators need. Because evaluators are seniors. They are considered to be mentors. You're giving some feedback. And you don't want to be tensed while giving feedback. Now, after you do that, as I said, you finished your introduction for 10 to 20 seconds. And now you need to transition to the good points. What speakers who end up losing contests or who are not yet expert evaluators do is, Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters and Toastmaster Ravi, you had really good body language. There is something lacking there, a transition, because the speaker does not know you well. This is what I call the bridging phrase. The bridging phrase can be anything. I have noted down a few of my favorites, which I've kind of used over the past years, which I've seen expert speakers using. You always start with a special objective called the bridging phrase. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters and Toastmaster Ravi, that was one of the best speeches I've heard in a while. That was a really good speech. I'm talking about or, this or that, or. You showed us what you are made up of. Or, Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters and Toastmaster Ravi, I'm going to give you some specific feedback that's going to make you more powerful at the podium. That makes you sound more professional. And then you go on to say your positive points. So the bridging phrase happens between each segment of your evaluation. Your introduction to your commendation to your recommendation back to your commendation, and then to your summation, and then how you hand it over to the contest master. Between each of these segments, you need this bridging phrase, which is nothing but the transitional phase. So here, it's going to be something like, that was the best speech I've heard in a long while. And then you go to your positive points. After you declare saying that is one of the finest speeches I've heard in a while, announce your evaluation structure. This I found it very useful because when the judges are tallying, they have a separate session called technique or the analytical ability to mark you, right? So they need to know what method you're using. Are you using the sandwich? Instead of them spending time on analyzing your structure of evaluation, make them spend time in analyzing the way you're evaluating. Why don't you declare your structure first? So, I'm Toastmaster Ravi. That's one of the finest speeches I've heard in a while. Today, I'm going to evaluate you based on 4 parameters: your body language, your vocal variety, your content, and structure. I'm declaring my compartment approach structure. That's exactly what I'm doing. Or, today, I'm going to start my evaluation by giving you points which I really liked from your speech. I'm talking about the CRC approach, the sandwich approach. And then when I transition again, I'm going to say, have a transition which is going to declare that I'm going to go to recommendations now. Just don't bluntly start and start with a transition. This is exactly why you need first 20 seconds for your introduction. So what have we done till now? Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters and Toastmaster Ravi. What a wonderful speech it was. That's one of the finest I've heard in a while. Now I'm going to evaluate you based on 4 different parameters, A, B, C, D. Now, the first parameter is, so this takes 20 seconds of your time, and this is very important in creating an impact as an evaluator to the judges and the audience. Now, next we come to the first part, the actual important part of the evaluation, which constitutes the maximum time spent, because evaluation is to motivate, evaluation is not to demotivate. So, commendation part. What happens in a commendation part? Be concise, be precise, thereby showing that you are wise. As evaluator needs to show that he is wise, wiser than the other people out there. So be concise and precise, that will make you wise. Don't be generic, like I said, good body language. You're not helping yourself, you're not helping the judges, nor are you helping the speaker. We'll come to how to be concise and wise. Have a maximum of 3 to 4 points. List down up to 6 to 7 points and prioritize by putting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and have a maximum of 3 to 4 points. Now how do you choose have a maximum of 3 to 4 points? How do you choose these points? The golden rule is called the MISI rule. MISI is the acronym formed at McKinsey, which says mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. There's a very powerful technique in evaluation. Your points in your commendation part, if you choose 3 to 4 points, all those 4 points should be mutually exclusive, but collectively exhaustive. Now what is mutually exclusive? Now most of us in our evaluations, you would agree, we start by saying, for example, your body language was really good. And then we talk about the speech content. And the third point would be, I specifically liked your eye contact a lot. Now we forget that eye contact is part of a bigger umbrella called body language. So actually you're wasting time by devoting 30 seconds on body language and again another 20 seconds your eye contact, whereas both come under the same umbrella called body language. So these 2 points are not mutually exclusive. You might have given a great evaluation, but the analytical ability clearly lacks, because you're given 2 points beating around the bush. So have mutually exclusive points but collectively exhaustive points. What is collectively exhaustive? After your 4 points, you should have made sure all aspects of the speaker is covered. You will be able to do this better when you go with a compartment approach initially in your evaluation, because you will make sure all functions of evaluations are covered. Never start with peripherals. A very important rule again. What are peripherals? Body language and vocal variety. Body language and vocal variety, dear friends, remember this, are there only to give masala to a speech, only to make a good speech a better speech. Never start, you are actually disrespecting the speech if you start by saying your eye contact is good. Eye contact, your hand gestures, your voice, your rate are all support materials of a good speech. They are never the speech itself. This poor guy has done so much research in the speech, and what if I start by saying, yeah, your hand eye contact was good? What about all the research he does? Let your first 2 points not touch the body language and vocal variety. That is the easiest to spot as an evaluator, but never use that to start an evaluation. Remember, you just have 3 minutes, there are judges voting you, and there are other 6 good evaluators. You don't want to start with a peripheral as your strongest point. Now that you've shortlisted 3 to 4 points, maybe the first point maybe something on content, second on structure, third on body language, fourth on vocal variety. So you follow the NISI approach, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. You spend exactly 10 to 15 seconds on each point, 70 seconds of commendation is ready. So you started evaluation, you greeted the speaker, you transitioned into commendation, you finished your commendation. Right. Now what do? Again, the bridging phrase comes into picture. Now what is the bridging phrase you're going to use now when you go into recommendation? This is the most critical part of the evaluation, and this can make or break the speaker. What do we always do? We use either negating words or negative words. Now what are negating words? You had amazing eye contact, but your voice was bad. But, however, if only, all these things are negating words. You say something and you suddenly push a knife in by saying, oh, all that is okay, but you don't want that to happen in a speech evaluation, do you? Especially when you're being marked by judges out there. What are negative words? Negative words are normal words like bad, horrible, pathetic. Not you this time, but yeah. Bad. Your voice was pathetic. You don't want the pathetic, especially in the evaluation. You can at least say pathetic, and at least the judges may not notice, but never use negative words or negating words in your evaluation. But before we even come to that, you've now commended the speaker as if he's a Barack Obama. You want to win the prize, so you've commended all adjectives you've put here. Good. Now how are you going to transition? You're suddenly coming from good to bad to ugly. How do you do that? So you can use specific phrases like, for example, this is what I have used over the time, and I'm sure you can extrapolate this and do whatever you want with this, or build your own phrases. So my last point might have been, I also like your eye contact because you were able to maintain contact with each and every part of your audience. But every speech, every speech has scope for improvement. What I should not do is, but you had good eye contact. Now, your body language was bad. There's suddenly there's no transition in between them. Every speech has scope for improvement. and so does yours. That's a transition. Or how to make this memorable speech into a magical speech. This is what I used in Bombay Revelations. How to, if you see, as an evaluator, your creativity is stifled because you're evaluating something which another person is performing. But your transitions are where your creativity can pour out because it's you who are forming these words, not anybody else. Never prepare a transition and come because you don't know whether the speech was memorable or not. And you end up saying how to make this memorable speech to a magical speech. The target speaker will stand up and say, oh, it was not memorable. He will be feeling guilty himself. So again, it's not you, okay? Alright, so you can be even creative in this. I once heard a very good speaker doing this transition. Okay, you end with saying your eye contact was good. But it is pebbles in the water that makes the water beautiful. Oh. As a judge, she's going to give me marks. It's pebbles in water. When you put these kind of transitions in your evaluation, it connects the dots so beautifully that your evaluation is a masterful evaluation. The sandwich method is so beautiful because the speaker does not know you're criticizing the speaker. The speaker always notices the first layer and the last layer. Only after he goes back home says, oh my God, I was pathetic. Okay? That's the power of the sandwich method. So you say, it is pebbles in water that makes you beautiful. Or rather, it's dots in the blah 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 that makes it beautiful. So similarly, what are your pebbles? Maybe blah blah blah. In my view, and again, when you're transitioning and going to the recommendation part, never say, we felt that your voice was bad. I don't know what he felt, come on. So what these two people felt about my first speech was completely in contrast. How can I talk for him, how can he talk for him? In my opinion, from my perspective, in my view, opinion, views, perspective are called the keywords of recommendation in the evaluation context. In my perspective, from my views, in my opinion, always clicks. That is what another message comes, message number 5, it says, generalize positives, personalize negatives. I repeat, generalize positives, personalize negatives. When you're talking about your eye contact, you need not say, in my opinion, your eye contact was good. Am I not wrong? Was his eye contact good? Ask the audience, because you're generalizing positives. When I'm talking about the negative aspect of your eye contact, in my opinion, I felt you could have seen all 4 quadrants of the audience. You were concentrating your eyes to the first quadrant. Maybe your girlfriend was sitting there. Don't say that in your evaluation. So this is the way you transition into evaluation. Negative words, negating words, generalize positives, personalize negatives, and never be general in your recommendations. What is being general in your recommendations? Improve your body language is one, which I already said. Let me tell you. We talk negating words, personalizing opinion. This is the way you need to give a negative point to the speaker. Positive point is okay, the speaker already knows what he's good in. Negative points are the points which the speaker does not know he's bad in. Because if he knew he was bad in it, he wouldn't have made that particular negative point. I need not keep harping that he's good in body language or eye contact, because he already knows that. But if he's not good in eye contact, that's when I need to tell him. So I need to be very specific with my recommendation. Right? I need to say what I'm talking about. Your eye contact. I need to cull out an instance from his speech where I thought he lacked eye contact. For example, hand gestures, body language. Okay. There are pebbles, blah, 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 that make it beautiful. So in your particular speech, I felt, in my opinion, that your hand gestures were not fully utilized. Especially, the second part, instance, especially the part of your speech when you had a direct conversation with your mother. You were telling your mother you wanted a new bike, but you were just standing stiff like this. Ideas of improvement. Because you're having a direct speech, I felt your hands could have been better. Maybe you could have done this. Mama, I want my bike. That will make it better. And then illustrate with an example how it should be, what I did in the end. Follow this 4-step process, which will make you look and sound a genuine evaluator and not a person who's coming there to get the trophy alone. And this will actually create the value for the speaker who's listening to your evaluation, and the judges will score you 100 on 100 on the technique and your suggestions and your analytical ability part of it. So tell the speaker what you're going to do. What is the negative feedback? Where instance and ideas about what could be better and illustrate that idea. Because if you're not able to do that, you can't expect the speaker to do that. You can't say, when you won the college competition, I felt you should have jumped to the ceiling, but you didn't do that. Even you can't do that. Can you jump to the ceiling? No, you can't. So don't give things which you cannot do it yourself. Right? Being generic helps neither. Again, the transition comes into picture. Now you've commended, they go on to the beautiful transition. The speaker thinks you're still commending, but actually you're recommending. He's going to realize that a little later after he gets back home. And now you're finished with the recommendation part. You have 2 to 3 points which you've recommended the speaker with. You follow the improvement instance, ideas, illustration approach. Great, you know, in the top of the world. Now what do? You just can't summarize. In sandwich method, you don't end with recommendations. So you need to go to commendations. Again, but you've exhausted everything that you had. You used the MECE approach. You prioritized and you did everything what we discussed here. But you don't have anything else to comment upon. Even if you have something to comment upon, it was lesser in your priority list. So it may not have enough impact to end your evaluation with. So what do? Now again, before that, the bridging gap, right? So after you finish your recommendations, use a wonderful transition to come back to your positives. And what do you say in this comment part? You talk about the generic aspects. In the first 70 seconds of comment, I told you to talk about the specificity. Don't talk about body language, talk about eye contact. Don't talk about vocal variety, talk about the rate. Don't talk about speech content, talk about the specific triad you used. Don't talk about structure, talk about the transitions. Don't talk generic stuff, talk specific stuff. Here, my suggestion is the opposite. You don't have time now to add a new point about the evaluation, saying, let me start talking about your hand gestures. It's too huge to start talking, the green light is already on at the end of your recommendation, right? So you need to be generic. This is a time for you to commend the speaker on the speech value, on the relevance, on the conviction, credibility, concern, which we talked about in detail before some time. Because those are generic. So you end your recommendation, transition and say, but the best thing I liked about your speech is the value I can take back home. And that was something, blah, blah, blah. The speech value, where I don't have time to go into details. I really can't tell you which line actually created value. But I'm telling in a nutshell, saying that your speech created value. And that is what meant by the third layer of the sandwich, and not dividing your good points equally into your first part and the last part of your commendation. The entire commendation should go to the first part. This second commendation is in a high-level generic commendation. You can also include relevance to the situation. Dissection time over. The triple C's of speech, as I said, you can use that in this section. Relevance to SAT. What is SAT? Relevance to the situation, relevance to the audience, relevance to the time. Right? Maybe 3 months or rather 1 year back, if somebody came to stage and talked about, there is a Gandhian which nobody knows about called Anna Hazare. Why is he talking about somebody I don't know? Maybe today if somebody talks about Anna Hazare and his principles, we would say, that's the most motivational speech I've heard. Why? Because relevance to time, relevance to audience, and relevance to situation. These are the parts where you can add in your third commendation of your speech. And then the most important bridging phrase, as we come to the end of the evaluation, you've toiled, you've worked hard, you've prepared your transitions, you've done a great job. Your introduction, you recognize the speaker, your transitions, and you went to the commendation. Transitions, you went to the recommendation. Transitions, you came back to commendations. And now you've got to finish the speech. This is where most of us mess up our evaluation. In fact, all of us mess up our evaluation. What should we do here? Again, the bridging phrase comes into picture. Always declare subtly that you're summarizing a speech. Don't tell, So now I'm going to start concluding my speech. Never say that. You're supposed to subtly do that, right? But never start off with your conclusion without telling that you're concluding. Most judges have already started marking their ballots by this time, because the main part of what they require from you is over. Your analytical ability, your evaluation is done. So they are paying only, psychologically, they are paying only 50% attention to your speech. So in case you just conclude, and they not knowing that you concluded, your mark in that column is going to be a 0. So use transitions like, to summarize, let me tell you why I enjoyed your speech a lot. Or to recap, your speech clicked today because. Or in a nutshell, you were brilliant today because. To recap, to summarize, in a nutshell. These are wonderful transitions which you can employ during your transitions to your conclusion. Now after you do that, the final part, after you start the transition to your summation, how do you summarize? Now what do you mean by recapping and summarizing? Take one point out of your first commendation list, one word out of each line, take one word out of your recommendation and have something like this. For example, to recap, your speech clicked today because I felt your strong points are your dash, dash and dash. And it could be made even more powerful because if you had dash and dash. Summarizing is only that much. Never include an additional point in your summarizing. This is not the time for that, as the judges are not listening to you. They just want to know whether you are summarizing. They assume that if you gave a good evaluation, you'll also summarize well. So don't focus too much on adding value by content in your summary. Just recap using keywords as to your eye contact. To summarize, what I really liked in your speech is your eye contact, the specific use of alliterations, and your comparisons and analogies. What I thought you could improve in your speech is your stage choreography and your hand gestures when you're talking to your mother. You're still taking one word out of each of my positive and negative points. And now I've done the summary. The entire summary is just 20 seconds. The transition takes 5 seconds. This takes, say, another 10 seconds. So I have my last 5 seconds left. You don't want to leave the speaker and the judges just with the summarizing, though that's what they want, but you want to become the winner. You don't want to be placed the second. And that's why Rajdeep Manwani comes to the poetry. That's why a few speakers in my club, when a speaker evaluated project 6, said, all the best for your project 7, make this place a speaking heaven. Sorry, I said that in one of the speeches. So I normally test things by saying, one speaker in my club says that if it clicks, it becomes me. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter anyway. So that is why you're adding the entire. Don't you want the audience to actually give you a standing ovation when you end? And that does not depend on the 2 minutes 50 seconds of your speech. That completely depends on how you end it. The rhymes which you had when you described what the sandwich method is to me, right? All of you, the best and the rest and the best. You were talking about right? So that's how you're going to end it. How would you do that? Not all of us are creative enough to have these poetry instinct. But what can you do? End with another bridging phrase, a beautiful transition. So I say, you were good at ABC, but you could have improved with XYZ. And you conclude like this. And so, I would like to discuss further about your speech, maybe after this contest. Or you say, so I'm going to go back home and tell my folks what a wonderful speech I heard today. Or, I would love to hear you speaking again. Please do let me know when you do a project speech in your club. Or, any transitions like this. You're going to end it with a punch by reassuring the speaker that it's not just this 2 to 3 minutes I'm interested in you because I want to get the trophy, but I'm genuinely interested in you as a speaker. That's exactly what we want to convey. So these are the transitions which you need to use. Let's do a quick recap. Some points to remember. Evaluate the speech and never the speaker. What is evaluate the speech and never the speaker? Never talk about the hairstyle, unless there could be another way to make it better. If a lady specifically has hair falling right over her face, where she has the option to put it back, then you can evaluate. Right? Never talk about the physical appearance if that person does not have an option to change it. If a person is purposely wearing a magenta shirt and a coolers, then he can talk, please remove the coolers. But he's born with that, don't do that, please. So never evaluate the speaker, always evaluate the speech. Do not give the minutes of the speech. This is something which all of you, I'm sure, are guilty on. How many times, even for my speech today, for example, evaluator comes and says, it looks a perfect evaluation, but it is actually crappy for the judges. Let me tell you why. So Toastmaster Aditya, what a wonderful speech you gave. You started talking about how you got into the flight. Then you said it was 5 o'clock and it was chilly. And then you said how you remembered about the division and the district splitting into two. And in 2007 you were the same division. And then you said correctly about how evaluation is the reason why Toastmasters has grown. Overall, a great speech. Over to you. Believe me, this looks a very good